Shalom, my friends, who would like to continue with our study in Pirkei Avot. We are in the middle of the chapter number 4, and we will engage now in the study of the coming Mishnayot. Number 1, Mishnah number 17. And which sage do we have now? We have Rabbi Shimon. Now it's probable that this is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, as there is a rule whenever you have plain Rabbi Shimon, even though there are many sages by the name Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Rabbi Shimon ben that, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, but when it says just Rabbi Shimon, it is known it is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Of course, that's the famous sage from whom the book of the Zohar originated. He gave to the world approximately 1900 years ago, after the destruction of the temple. Still, Rome was the power, and he was in grave danger because of his character. His character is to be sincere. He does not hide anything. He says what he feels. So it happened that he said something very negative about the conduct of the Romans, and this conversation came to the ears, finally, to the ears of Caesar, of the ruler of Rome, and therefore he was sentenced to death, for which he had to run away, and he went to hide in a cave. There's much more to say about it, but Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, this week is the week of Rabbi Shimon, since on Wednesday night, we have the Hilulah of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So everywhere you will go in the land of Israel, and also elsewhere in New York, also I have seen it, that they light big fires, and all this to commemorate the day of the Hilul of Rabbi Shimon, which according to our tradition, he passed away on that day, which is Lag BaOmer. On the 33rd day of the counting of the Omer, that's when he passed away. It was a great day, because that's the day when he gave permission for the study of Kabbalah to be open for at least people who are meritorious enough to study it. But he was not only the greatest man in Kabbalah, which is the hidden Torah, he was also a very great sage in the learning, in the knowledge of the open Torah, which is the oral Torah, Talmud, and the written Torah, of course. So therefore he tells us also many things, and one of them is brought here in the book of Pirkei Avot. He says, Shlosha ktarim hem. There are 3 crowns. Keter Torah, the crown of Torah. Keter Kehuna, the crown of priesthood, of the Kohen, the high priest, the Kohen Gadol. And Keter Malchut, and of course the crown of the king. So we have 3 crowns. Now, Keter Torah means, when you have the crown of Torah, it means that you are a great Torah scholar. So you have a kind of crown on your head. That's the light of Torah which is upon you. Sorry. The crown of Kehuna, that is the priesthood, for those who were Kohanim, absolutely. It is a keter, it is a crown, because we are supposed to, not only in the time of Bet HaMikdash, in the time of Bet HaMikdash, the high priest was almost like a king. But also just plain Kohanim, who worked in the Bet HaMikdash and everything, they were given proper respect. In fact, the respect of the Kohen is due to him by the power of the Torah, as the Torah says, Vekidashto, that God himself has sanctified the Kohen. And even today, after so many generations, we still honor the Kohen by calling him to be first, to be called to the Torah. But there is a 4th crown. The Keter Shem Tov Ole Al Kulam. There is another crown that people don't think about. the crown of a good name. And here Rabbi Shimon says the crown of the good name is better than all of them, than all the crowns. In fact, it's above all of them. It surpasses them all. It's very important to have a good name. Our sages said, if you have a good name by people, people talk good about you. In heaven also they will judge you good. Which means, if you please people, you please the Almighty also. Anyone who pleased the spirit of people, then the spirit of God also is pleased with him. Mishnah number 18. We have another name, apparently not known, Rabbi Nehorai. This name does appear sometimes in the Talmud, but there is a tradition. Nehorai is an Aramaic word meaning light. There is a tradition that this is Rabbi Meir, that we have studied this morning, previously. Why then, if his original name, according to this tradition, that's a Talmudic statement that says that his name is Nehorai Shemo, ולמה קראו לו מאיר? פני שהאיר עיניהם של ישראל בהלכה. That's the name. Rabbi Nehorai is the original name of Rabbi Meir. Why then do we call him Rabbi Meir? Meir in Hebrew means the one who gives light, who enlightens the world, the people. And why is that? Because he is the one who enlightened the eyes of the Jewish people in the knowledge of Jewish law. Some others say that because he was born, perhaps. Some others say that he passed away in Chanukah, which is the light of lights, and that's why he was named Rabbi Meir. All this, what is more actual is what I said, that he was known as Nehorai, and yet we call him Meir because he became the light of Israel, from the word or. Or means light. Anyway, we return to some. There is even also another opinion that says this is a different rabbi, Rabbi Nehorai, not exactly Rabbi Meir, another rabbi who was known as Rabbi Nehorai. Even though we are willing to accept that the original name of Rabbi Meir is Rabbi Nehorai, but we're talking about another Rabbi Nehorai, that's all. So Rabbi Nehorai Omer, another sage of the Mishnah, of course, in the third generation of the sages of the Mishnah. There were 5 generations, until the generation of the people of the Gemara started. But first we had about 5 generations of the sages of the Mishnah, from Hillel and Yochanan ben Zakkai, and then you have Rabbi Yoshua ben Hanania, and then you have Rabbi Akiva, and then you have up to Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, that's the last one. So Rabbi Nehorai says, Heve golel imkom Torah. Go exile yourself to a place of Torah, which means even if you have no Torah near you, it's worth it to go to relocate elsewhere, to even travel far to learn Torah. And even if you have Torah in your place, that's according to Jewish law, that even if you have a yeshiva near you, but it's not a yeshiva that is for you. You don't feel good about it. You are allowed to go further to other places, even to exile yourself and to depart from your family for a while. Because many sages did so for the sake of learning Torah. ואל תאמר שהיא תבוא אחריך. And do not assume that it will come after you. The Torah doesn't come to you. Even though it was given to us for free as a gift from God, but nevertheless you have to work for it. You have to go to it. If you stay where you are and there is no Torah, you are going to stay a person who doesn't know anything in Torah. So, אל תאמר שהיא תבוא אחריך. Don't wait for it to come after you. שחבריך יקיימוها בידיך. Or you might believe that your colleagues will cause you, They will teach you, they will tell you, they will give you the proper information, therefore you don't need to go. No, it's you who have to do it yourself, and don't count on anyone else. ואל בינתך אל תישען. Do not rely on your own understanding. You have to do the best you can to go and learn as much as possible, and not only that, besides that, you still have to ask your colleagues for a reasoning, for a good piece of knowledge, for learning and everything. You ask everyone. Do not rely solely on your own knowledge and learning and understanding. Mishnah 19. Rabbi Yanai Omer. Now, Rabbi Yanai is also one of the sages of the Mishnah, and I'll tell you just one thing about him. That's the famous Rabbi Yanai, which we find in the Talmud as a person who sat at the window, and he heard from the outside someone who was passing by selling his goods, but he was declaring out loud, Mi ha'ish chafetz chaim, anyone who wants life, come to me, I'll give you. And people came to him and he gave them, they came for something to drink, but he gave them just a piece of advice, which is in a verse of the book of Psalms that King David says, Mi ha'ish chafetz chaim, ohev yamim lir'ot tov, netzor leshonecha merah, which means you want life. If you want life, and you like your life and your days, lir'ot tov, to see only good things in your life, then keep your mouth from saying anything that is evil. Don't say lashon hara. Rabbi Yanai heard that from his window. He called upon him and he spoke with him. That's what we know about Rabbi Yanai, even though there are so many other stories about Rabbi Yanai, such as his great wisdom and his purity and his piousness. He says, En biyadenu lo mishalvat hareshaim ve'af lo misurei hatzadikim. What he means to say is, we don't have in our hands, which means we cannot explain either the prosperity and the tranquility of the wicked. I mean, wicked people, and you find them very successful. So you ask yourself, how is it possible? They are not punished. So he says, we cannot explain. Of course, we do explain, by the way. We know that Hashem gives the reward for the wicked in this world, but he gives him nothing up there. Whereas for the tzaddik, he doesn't give him much in this world, but he gives him everything in the world to come. But what he means to say, no matter how much we explain, it doesn't look logical that a wicked man should succeed so much. ואף לא מייסורי הצדיקים. And also we are not able to understand and to explain verily why the righteous, so many righteous people suffer. I mean, you are a righteous man, you're supposed to be given everything that's good. But as I said before, there is a reason. What he means to say is that still we don't have a clear size answer for that. We cannot explain that openly. You have to believe in the world to come in order to believe the reason for that. Otherwise, en biyadenu, he says, we don't have the capability of explaining this. This is something that happens every day. We see it. I mean, even Moses in the Talmud, we find that he asked God, and he says, "Madua tzaddik vera'lo verasha ve'tov lo." How come we see in this world such a thing that is not logical? That the tzaddik, and yet his life is miserable sometimes, whereas the wicked, many times his life is enjoyable. Why is it? Of course, God did not give him a specific answer. That's the reason why we cannot know for sure. But our sages did tell us that there is such a thing, that Hashem gives the reward for the wicked, for whatever good he has done in this life, he gives him this life. And in this life he finds that it is enjoyable. Anyway, he doesn't believe very much in the world to come. But the tzaddik, he lives solely only for the world to come. He doesn't care much about this world. And therefore God doesn't give him much. He might even suffer in order to atone for the generation, or even to atone for the slightest sins that he does. Because everyone commits sins. King Solomon said, "And tzaddik asher ya'aseh tov velo yecheta." In the book of Proverbs, it says there is not one righteous man that doesn't have some kind of sin. Right? So let's go now to Mishnah number 20. Short Mishnayot. Rabbi Mattia ben Charash. Here is another name, not very known except by the Talmudist. Who is Rabbi Mattia ben Charash? All I can tell you is one small story. Rabbi Mattia ben Charash was extremely pious. He was extremely prudent not to see something that might bring the evil inclination into his heart. The Talmud tells us that one day there was a beautiful woman. God sent Satan to try him, to see if how Rabbi Mattia, the son of Charash, how is he going to behave. So he sent him Satan in the look of a beautiful woman, most beautiful woman. She came near him. Immediately, Rabbi Mattia ben Charash ran away the other side. She came to his side. He comes to the other side. Seeing that he cannot run away from her, he did something quite difficult to understand. But he blinded himself. He took something very sharp and he blinded his eyes. We cannot even tolerate to hear that. By the way, the Talmud says that at the end, God did cure him. But in the meantime, he proved himself to be very righteous, very pious. To avoid sin, he even preferred to become blind, not to see. That's as much as I can say for now about Rabbi Mattia ben Charash. What does he say? He says, Heve makdim bishlom kol adam. Number one, he says, be the first one to always say hello, shalom, to anyone that comes to you. You see anybody, you be the first one to welcome him, right? This is a good trait of character. That's also a kind of humbleness, a kind of that great mitzvah to please the people. So be the first one. In fact, the Talmud tells us about Rabbi Yochanan, who used to greet every person, even a goy. When he sees an old goy, he would greet him. Even his disciples could not understand it. He said, why not? That's another story about Rabbi Yochanan. But now he says, Rabbi Mattia ben Charash says, statement number one, Heve makdim bishlom kol adam. Be always, be the one to initiate a greeting to every person. Number two, he says, Veheve zanav la'arayot. Be always a tail to lions. That's a parable. We can explain that in many ways. One way is, let's say you are in the presence of somebody who is much higher than you, much greater than you in learning, you be quiet and don't interfere, and rather you behave like if you are a tail, which means behind the lion. The lion is the man of great knowledge, the great rabbi. You be behind him. That's understandable. And finally he says, Ve'al tehi rosh lashu'alim. But that does not mean that you have to be the head of the silly people, of the foxes. Shu'al is a fox. Which means it's better to be always behind and to be inferior than to be superior when you are together with people who are not good, who are wicked or crooked, like a fox. Another Mishnah. As I said many times, every saying here requires much more deeper learning, and there are hundreds of other commentaries regarding every single statement made by our sages here. What I am trying here to say is to learn with you the Pirkei Avot very superficially, alright? Mishna 21. Rabbi Yaakov Omer. Another rabbi not known, not very much known, but he is one of the sages of the Mishnah. All the sages that are written in the book of the fathers, in the Pirkei Avot, are from the time of the Mishnah, the time of the Tannaim, the sages of the Mishnah. That means Rabbi Yaakov, this Rabbi Yaakov is a sage of the Mishnah. And he says, Ha'olam hazeh domeh lifrosdor bifnei ha'olam haba. This world is like a lobby before you reach the world to come. Think about a palace. When you go to the palace, there is a certain place, a certain entrance that leads you to the palace. That alley or that passage, where the passage is our world, the world here, but the palace is the world to come. And he also says, Hatken atzmecha baprosdor, kidei shetikanes latraklin. Prepare yourself in the lobby, so that you may enter the traklin. The traklin could mean a palace, but it could mean also the banquet hall, which is a saying to say that in heaven the righteous and the meritorious will have a banquet, which means they will enjoy themselves. Our sages said that the righteous will enjoy everlastingly in heaven. What do they enjoy? What is the banquet really? Looking and gazing at the splendor of the divine presence. You might ask, but you could see the most marvelous sight and yet you become bored. No, that's the point about heaven. Everything is continuous forever and ever. On the contrary, their enjoyment every day and every time becomes greater and greater. This, the Mefarshim, the commentators and the Kabbalists say. So therefore one should prepare himself in the lobby. Well, how do you prepare in the lobby? In this world, you occupy yourself with Torah learning, good deeds, charity deeds, kindness deeds, to be a good man with people, to love everyone, and not to hate anybody. Even those who hate you, don't hate them. You want to know something? You want someone to like you? Start you yourself by liking him. You like him, he will end up liking you. You hate him, you will not even know why, that the other guy also that you hate, hates you too. There is much more to say about this, but enough. Now, Mishnah number 22, coming from the same Rabbi Yaakov. And he said, Hu haya omer, he used to say, Yafa sha'a ahat bitshuva uma'asim tovim ba'olam hazeh mikol hayei ha'olam haba. One single hour that you spend in repentance and good deeds in this world is more beautiful than all the life in the world to come. Now this is something very difficult to understand. You tell me, there is, and yet he goes on. He goes on to say, ויפה שעה אחת של קורת רוח בעולם הבא מכל חיי העולם הזה. 1 minute, that's called sha'a here, even though sha'a means in Hebrew 1 hour. But it means 1 moment of not heaven, a heavenly moment, even just passing by heaven, which means korat ruach means, just a feeling of heaven, of 1 minute, is more enjoyable than even all the life in this world. Now, this passage is very difficult, and books have been written about this. How do we understand this? Apparently, these statements are contradictory. They contradict each other. On one hand, he says, 1 hour of repentance and good deeds in this world is better than all the world to come. What's going on? How is it possible? And then he says to me that even smelling the world to come is so enjoyable that it's worth it, and I will explain, all the life of this world. All right, I will try to explain as quick as possible. Number one, the reason why 1 hour of repentance and good deeds is better than all life in the world to come, because by doing teshuvah and also good deeds, you increase the valor and the beauty of your future heavenly reward. So automatically, if your life in the world to come is nothing special, by doing 1 hour of repentance and learning Torah and good deeds, you are increasing the value of your share in the world to come, and that's what it means, that it is better than your life in the world to come if you did not do repentance and good deeds. That's one thing. Now he says, יפה שעה אחת קורת רוח בעולם הבא יותר מכל חיי העולם הזה. You smell just a little. I think it is Rabbi Israel Salanter, or either it's מכתב מאליהו, Rabbi Eliezer Dessler. He writes, what is the meaning of קורת רוח, to the smell of עולם הבא? You know, you have to know something. When someone dies, then they decide in heaven whether to go to paradise or to go to hell. But to go to hell, he has to pass through paradise. They let him pass near paradise. When he passes near paradise, he smells the wonderful smell of paradise. That smell and that enjoyment that he has is worth more than all his enjoyable life in this world. That's what he means. It's a way to express the great importance of believing in the world to come. And therefore one should prepare himself in this world properly to be able to merit his share in the world to come. Okay, Mishnah number 23. We have another Rabbi Shimon, but this is Rabbi Shimon, the son of Elazar, another sage of the Mishnah, a great one. He says, "Al teratzeh et havercha bish'at ka'aso." Very good advice. Don't try to appease your fellow man when your fellow man is in the midst of his anger. Let's say someone is angry at you, hollering at you. That's not the time to appease him. Wait until he himself is quiet, then you come to appease him. You ask forgiveness, you make him feel better. All right, but don't do it in the middle of his anger. You do it in the middle of his anger, you are going to increase his anger. Try it and you don't try it. And he goes on and he says, "Ve'al tenachamehu b'sha'at shemeto mutal lefanav." It's almost an example of what he said before. He says, don't try to console, right, to give solace to someone who is right now before his own relative dead before him. When the dead relative is before him, that's not the time to present your condolences. Your condolences is after the burial, you come back home, then you express your regrets. But at the time when the living is looking at his own relative dead before him, this is the time to console him. That would be silly, right? Another advice he says, "Ve'al tish'al lo b'sha'at nidro." Do not question him about his vow at the time he makes it. Wait. Let's say someone makes a vow. A vow is very serious. Our sages say that you have to be very careful to keep your vow. If one doesn't keep his vow, he brings danger upon his family. Talmud says that. But at the time when he comes, let's say, when he tells you his vow, don't tell him what's the vow now. Wait. Maybe he does express his anger or his frustration by making a vow. So wait, don't ask him now. ואל תשתדל לראותו בשעת כלכלתו. And the last advice that he tells us here is a beautiful advice. Do not try to see your friend, your fellow man, at the time when he is in the midst of his degradation. It happens to everyone. Sometimes you are so embarrassed, you don't know where to put yourself. His best friend should not look at him now. Make sure you are not there. Let him first appease himself from that embarrassment, from his degradation, and then you come and talk to him. But to talk to him at the time of the degradation, he doesn't want to see anyone. The one who has been degraded, he doesn't want his best friend, not even his best friend, to be near him, because that will increase his embarrassment. To the best of my ability to make it as short as possible, that's what I can say about this. Let us conclude with this Mishnah number 24 by Shemuel HaKatan. There was someone by the name Shemuel, and he is known as the Little. Who is this Shemuel the Little? So let me tell you, don't have any speculations about it. Shemuel HaKatan was a very great man. He was in the time after the sages of the Great Assembly. Long time ago, he was one of the sages of the Mishnah. The famous Shmuel that we know was not in the time of the sages of the Mishnah, but rather the first generation of the Emoraim, the sages of the Gemara, the Talmud. That's the time of Rav and Shmuel. Shmuel is very famous. Almost every page in the Talmud has it. But Shmuel HaKatan does not appear very often in the Talmud, but he is known for his greatness in wisdom, in piousness, in everything. In fact, there is much to say about him, but not now. So what does he say? He says, he quotes a verse, but he uses it as an advice to all of us. Binfol oyivcha al tismah. When you see your enemy falling, don't be happy. It's not good to be happy about someone who's falling before you. What is oyivcha? Oyivcha usually is your enemy. But that does not mean necessarily an enemy whom you fight to save your life. That's something else. We're talking your enemy who's someone who does not agree with you. Your enemy could be someone who doesn't like you, and so forth. So if the one who hates you or he's your enemy, if one day he falls, usually people will be happy, right? Don't be happy. Don't be happy, because you never know what might happen to you also. ובקושלו אל יגל ליבך. And when he stumbles, don't let your heart be so joyous, because it could happen to him, it might happen to you also. Don't be happy when you see the degradation of someone or his fall. Don't be happy about it. On the contrary, you see someone who lost a lot of money and now he is so humbled by it, be the one to encourage him. On the contrary, but don't. God forbid, you shouldn't be happy for his fall, even though you never liked him before. He is your enemy, right? Why? Why is it? I mean, why I cannot be happy for someone who hates me and finally he falls? Pen yir'eh Hashem ve'ra be'einav ve'eshiv me'alav apo. You know what might happen if you become happy that he fell? Maybe God will see above, and he will not be pleased with that. Ve'ra be'einav ve'eshiv me'alav apo. Now we will explain this one way. That means God, and when God is not pleased with the fact that you are happy about the degradation of your fellow man, even though he's your enemy, God is not pleased. He doesn't like to see this. So he might just take away from the suffering of this fellow man, which means his fall will become a source of his coming back. Or it would mean, like some other sages explain, Shiv me'alav apo, it means that he will revert it upon you. There's a story in the Talmud, in Masechet Brachot, that Rava, when Rava the famous great Talmudic scholar, famous Rosh Yeshiva, he one day became very sick. So he asked his servant not to declare it outside, because he doesn't want anybody to come to see him the first day of his sickness. But the second day, let everyone know, and then he says, those who love me will pray for me. Those who hate me, they might be happy. If they are happy, then automatically God will take away my suffering. He might even bring it upon them. All right, that's all. So let us conclude with this teaching and wish you a nice evening, and be well, my friends. May the blessing of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes be upon you and all of us. Amen.